There is a story from the book Eat, Pray, Love that I think really speaks to our practice and to equanimity in particular, which is the last of the 10 paramis that we're reviewing. And in it, the author Elizabeth Gilbert describes a dream she has. She's on the beach, she's looking at the ocean. The waves are huge, terrifying, and there is a venerable monastic with her on the beach. And he points to the waves and says, "Stop that from happening. Stop that from happening. Figure that out." And so she tries to come up with these ideas, and she's, creating dams and all sorts of ways. Nothing is working. Nothing is working. The waves are building, getting even stronger. And she hears the teacher laughing. He's doubled over hysterically, tears pouring down. And he says, "Tell me, dear one, tell me if you would be so kind. How exactly were you planning on stopping that?" And, I wonder if you can relate. I can. How much we can want and try to control the uncontrollable, to control the waves of life. We know that equanimity is about aligning with and understanding the truth of how things are, the three characteristics of existence: anicca, dukkha, annata. Anicca, impermanence, everything changing. Because of that, there's dukkha, it's unreliable, and there's stress and suffering because of that. And annata, no separate thing. Right? Nothing can be separated from anything else. And so it's uncontrollable. And yet, when we connect with life as it actually is, with the vicissitudes, the waves, often our reaction is to want to gain some sense of control over them. I think this is really understandable, right? We do this to prevent pain, out of fear, out of overwhelm. It's really hard to be with the truth of how things actually are. But we can be with and notice the energy of wanting to control, trying to control the waves, and slow down with that. And even to kind of consider together, what are the ways that you may try to control what's not in your control? On the cushion, how many times have people said to me, "I can't meditate because I can't empty my mind. I can't stop my thoughts." This belief that meditation is about controlling our thoughts or our minds. Or ways that when on the cushion, I have tried to force my heart to open, force compassion or peace when it's not there at all. Trying to force my body even to relax, right? Lovely intention, but I can do it out of frustration and wanting it to be other than it is. On the cushion, our thoughts that try to control and create and maintain a sense of self through narratives and storying and repeating or justifying, denying, avoiding. And off the cushion, even for a moment, think of what are all the ways that when you come into contact with the vicissitudes of life, what are the ways that your mind and your system tries to manage that? Your habitual ways, right? maybe ways that we try to get people to see us in the way we want to be seen, or we try to manage other people and relationships, or we try desperately to change how things are in the world. I had two really tiny examples that I've been noticing and working with recently. Just these little ways that my mind isn't really okay with anicca, dukkha, annata. um, I often jog in the woods, and I was noticing that these thoughts were coming in where, it would a thought like, you have to take a left here. If you don't, something bad will happen. These kind of little OCD like thoughts. Or if you're going to go around that way, you have to do it around that particular tree and in this particular way. And it was like, whoa, what's going on here? And I noticed even kind of a similar flavor, a similar energy in relation to small decisions I have to make, day-to-day decisions, a sort of obsessional going around and around, coming back to it again, making the decision, but then coming back to it in my mind. And it was really helpful to see this like way that my mind, my system tries to cope when things feel a little overwhelming or out of control in my life or in the world. It kind of like hones in on this very small way that maybe I can get a sense of control. Maybe I can get a sense of safety or okayness. And it's been really helpful just to kind of like soften around that, slow down around that. And so if we come back to the waves, right? She's on the beach, here are the waves, trying to make the waves stop. And let's just think about a wave for a moment. The impermanence of a wave, anicca, right? It's moving, it's changing, even as we're looking at it. It's unreliable because of that, dukkha. And it's not separate, annata. There's no way of sort of isolating a wave apart from the rest of the water or the wind that's creating it, or the earth underneath it that impacts its form. There's almost no such thing as a wave apart from everything else. And so as we all sit here, we can probably understand that. And probably everyone here will say, yeah, of course, I can't control the waves of the ocean. But can we recognize, do we recognize, we're no different from that wave? Our lives, our bodies, every thought, just like a wave, conditioned by myriad, countless, uncontrollable phenomena, big and small, coming together, impossible to separate, then gone. And yet we can have that attitude toward ourselves, toward our thoughts, toward aspects of our life, toward our bodies that age. Stop. Stop. I need to make this stop. We can hear that, right? We can feel that. And equanimity, if any of you, I know you all have had a moment of equanimity, it is just the deepest, most blissful, relief-filled peace. It's so wonderful because we're not actually battling reality. We're not fighting the laws that govern how things are. And it may seem paradoxical to say We want to see what we can't control. We want to recognize that. And yet we do have to act in the world. And equanimity requires our full engagement and connection. And that equanimity points us actually to karma, that we're all owners of our actions, responsible for our actions. And I think there's a both and there that actually isn't contradictory and is hopefully really cool to explore and play with. We can be mindful of a thought from a place that honors and truly understands the laws that govern its existence, its birth, its life, its death. It's impermanent, unreliable, not separate, not controllable. And from that place, we can relate to it and get curious about it. And coming back to the story, right? The teacher with the tears streaming down his face and him saying, dear one, did you really think you could control that? There's such humor and compassion in that. And I think that is a real lesson for me as well, to remember it's hard to be with life. We need humor. We need to be able to laugh when we try to say stop to life moving through, when we try to control it or think we can. And we need to have compassion, so much compassion, that we may not be able to control the waves, but we can relate to them with an understanding of their nature. And from that place, begin to discern, how do we connect fully? How do we engage fully, open-heartedly? How do we then respond inwardly to these minds and hearts and bodies, outwardly in our relationships and in the world, with the balance and clarity, compassion, ethical fortitude, and peace of equanimity? So thank you. Thanks so much for your attention.